Everybody wants to write a book. Prologue. Driver, how long do you think it'll take to get to the office this morning? Oh, depending on the lights, I'm guessing 15 or 20 minutes, sir. Traffic seems to be moving along quite nicely today. The Manhattan morning commute to work always started and ended with the same line of questioning. Then, with a few minutes to kill, Arlen Morales did what he usually did. He broke open his briefcase and pulled out a folder that had been prepared by his administrative assistant. It was more productive to look over some paperwork than to look out the window at crowds of people, moving at a breakneck pace to get to work, or the same taxicabs and cars furiously competing to get there fast wherever there was. But that was neither here nor there to Arlen Morales. He had a business to run, and it was business that was going to take up his time because Arlen Morales was a busy man, even when he could afford, if so inclined, not to be for a few minutes. That was just the way his mind worked. The folder was labeled Correspondence. Somewhat old-fashioned if you preferred your correspondence to be of a digital nature. Scrolled through with a flick of a finger across a glare-free screen on a sleek high-tech tablet. But Arlen Morales was still considerably old school. He liked the feel of papers in his hands. He liked shuffling through papers. Paper and ink, sometimes handwritten, sometimes printer-spume, but nevertheless a hard copy of the printed word as a form of communication that you could hold in your hands. A tactile way of dealing with a world that was in danger of getting marginalized, and possibly, in the worst-case scenario, God forbid, hopefully far off into the future, becoming nothing more than a quaint vestige of the past. Digital e-books, an abomination. Had they gone straight to digital e-books instead of a Gutenberg printing press back in 1439, his line of work would have had no reason to exist. At least not the way he so loved. Nothing was more beautiful than a book published by his company, Polydent Books, one of the most respected publishing companies in the world, and much appreciated by Barnes & Noble, his most reliable mega bookstore when it came to moving stock. Now that was a well-run company. Amazon was anathema, and that Bezos guy, well, no time to get worked up over things beyond one's control. He opened up the folder. The paperwork was predictable. Important stuff on top, and at the bottom, a few amusing letters from writers submitting their queries in the hopes of snagging that elusive book deal. Ah, the query, a convenient way of giving somewhat of an impression that book publishers were still open to considering the occasional wild card submission. Online query submission was mandatory through the Polydent website, but sometimes a follow-up letter somehow managed to find its way to someone's desk. Seeing some of those made Arlen Morales feel like he was still in touch with the everyman, and with that, a potential bestower of good fortune and coveted recognition as a published writer. Of course, that almost never happened. Getting struck by lightning almost never happened either, but people still ran for cover. Not under a tree, stupid, that'll get you killed. That was kind of funny. Normally, agents brought in the let's do lunch serious business, but a publishing company had to pretend that the agent challenge writer could still hope to break through the gates against all odds with a good query submission. And, of course, a reasonably good storyline idea. After that considerably difficult hurdle was overcome, an invitation to submit an example, say the first 3 chapters from the writer's book, was extended, where it would be attended to later than sooner by one of Morales' overworked, overwhelmed, and in their minds underpaid editors. But first, it would have to be carefully examined by one of the editor's interns, and that was a crapshoot in itself. An intern could have any one of a myriad of qualifications to be offered such a position, say for a car mechanic. Usually it was a recent college graduate with some kind of English/literary arts/humanities degree who had gravitated toward the world of book publishing. Secretly themselves an aspiring writer, perhaps? Of course. But that was kept buried in a pile of aspirations that any confused, broke, and usually lonely college grad carried around with them. Good looks and an interesting sense of fashion never hurt, and usually most certainly could make the difference between welcome to Polydent or a return to another round of pounding the pavement in hopes of a job in the business. Okay, the first order of business for Arlen Morales was a quick look at the schedule for the day. A few emails that had been printed out for reminder purposes of something or other, some memos regarding HR stuff, all of which were made quick shrift of. What was left? Oh, a query from some future New York Times best-selling author? Barnes & Noble, we need you ASAP to coordinate with Polydent Re, our newest writer's book signing tour. To whom it may concern, my story is about... Next. Okay, enough of that shit show. If they can't remember the name of the editor at Polydent Books they directed their initial online query submission to, well, they're idiots, and a predictable form letter just accentuates their clueless naivety. Pathetic and transparent. Oh, what a coincidence. The name of the book is The Transparent Transparent. Jesus Christ, God, please tell me why everybody and their mother wants to write a book these days. Could it have something to do with Monsanto and their seed takeover of the world? I thought labels on foods in the grocery were supposed to be clearly labeled as to whether they were GMO-free or not. You can't trust those Monsanto lobbyist guys when they go hanging around politicians. I need to start looking at the stuff I buy in grocery stores more closely. Does organic automatically mean GMO-free? Driver, do you avoid buying GMO-tainted foods in the grocery store? I haven't given it much thought, sir. Have you thought about writing a book lately? No, sir. Oh, okay. Oh, well, let's see what else I have here. Another query letter, but of course. Dear Mr. Morales, sorry to be bypassing everybody else at your company, but my online query that I submitted over 6 months ago to a Miss Krotchky, her genre interests for submission seem to be not mutually exclusive from mine, has been met with indifference, which is a polite way of saying ignored, which in itself is a polite way of saying deep-sixed, which is just another way of saying she didn't give a fuck. Normally, that would just roll off my back, but lately that seems to be industry-wide standard practice, which is a little bit disheartening, which is another way of saying disappointing, which in itself is a polite way of saying crushed, which is another way of saying I'm starting to feel a little suicidal. Not to worry, I'm on a couple of very good antidepressants. Now, I know you're in the business of selling book-binded word salads. GMO-free, of course. That's just a little inside joke. And Polydent Books is tops at their game. Give a fellow Latino a shot. Can't be that hard for you to pull off, Mr. Morales. It's your company, after all. Okay, so much for the groveling blah 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 stuff. The fiction novel I have to offer is about my life. I'm not going looking to get sued. That's why. I.e., I knew what you were thinking. The good, the bad, and the warts and all. I've done good things, I've done bad things. Yeah, I know. Why would anybody care? Good question. In the grand scheme of things, we're all dead, so that's a moot point. I like to think of my book as sort of a modern-day parable minus the God complex. Just like parables are kind of confusing and don't seem to get to the point, after reading it and digesting it, you realize there is a point. But it's not so in your face, so to speak. It's more written to force the reader to think about what the point is. Sometimes no point is the point, and that's something to take into consideration when you read a book such as mine. I don't take the reader for granted, but I also don't think the reader will take a book such as mine for granted. Granted, that's just my opinion, and sometimes writers are very defensive about something they wrote being taken the wrong way. To feel otherwise would be pointless. You want to get your point across. In conclusion, rest assured I know how to write. Been writing all my life. I know how to keep the reader's attention focused on what I'm writing about, instead of dozing off, or thinking about other things. I am college educated, and I'm in full command of the English language as long as I have a dictionary, a thesaurus, and my 1,200 words you should know book laying around. I will admit I'm not very good at crossword puzzles. I'm more of a Sudoku kind of guy. And I'm really good with these Where's Waldo books. Thank you for your time, and I'm sure we'll be doing business together. Oh yeah, the name of my book is The Yum Yum Tree. Just kidding. I think I shall call it Everybody Wants to Write a Book. Regards, Asa Velumcampo. We're here, sir. Oh, thank God. Everybody Wants to Write a Book. Prologue.